Hello, so today I'm going to show you in this video how we're going to create the dress of this beautiful design from Schiaparelli. We can see that it's beautifully tailored. If you have a look at some runway shows or some more photos, you see there's a seam across the bust here on the corset. There seem to be no seams in this area. And then we have this beautiful sculptured piece of the skirt, which stands mostly out, and then it will just draped onto it. At the back we have the opening, and also you will see there is an opening that continues, because if you were just to open the corset to the waist and then you can't open the waist to make the waist big enough for the hips to get in or the shoulders to get in, then there's no way that a person could actually get into the garment. So that's also quite important. We will start off with the corset, just using the avatar pen tool to draw it, and then we will start with a full circle for the skirt and a rectangle for the twill part. So let me show you where we start. Like always, you pick your avatar from your library. Okay. And for the 3D pen, it actually is in a 3D window, and you can see there's the first set of three with the t-shirt pen, so that's your garment pen, and then this one here is for the avatar. You have got two. The first one is edit 3D pen, and then you see in brackets avatar, and the second one is 3D pen avatar. So edit is the one that you can use to adjust it, and the 3D pen is the one that you want to use. Okay, so the 3D pen works quite similar to the internal polygon line here in your 2D, where you draw lines. The same principles apply. You can hold shift to go straight, you can hold command to make curves, and you double click to finish. So looking at the image of the design, I would start a little bit above her bra line here, and I hold shift to go straight. And to me it looks like here's her waist, her smallest part, but to me it looks like it's going a little bit past that. So I'm just visually choosing a point where I want to go to, and then I can draw the avatar while, I can turn the avatar while I'm drawing, and can draw the hemline. I'm holding command now to add curved points rather than sharp points. And when I get to the center back, I want to have a sharp point again, and then go up as well. Have a look at the image. So your back is not quite as high as your front, so which is quite common in corsets, because if you think about it, if it goes too high, it needs to get bigger and stand around here again, and it's not as natural to stay up nicely in this area when we go too high at the underarm. So it's usually a bit lower. It's also more comfortable. And if you forgot to hold command, or you kind of added a point somewhere and you didn't like it, let's say you went too quickly up here and you don't like it, you can always backspace. And then if you have a look at the image from the, well, I don't have a side view, but you can see from the front and the back that there's quite a step. So it goes from here and then quite up over the bust. It's not smooth like this. Yeah, it is more of a bit of a, like it looks like it has a step there. So I leave your choice of lines for your interpretation of the image. But basically you just draw the curves that you want. You could either add another point here if you wanted to, or you can go straight here. So to sometimes also make sure you look at the avatar from straight on. And like I said, you can always adjust points afterwards as well. Okay, so that's the first line, and the second line that I want to draw. I mean, first of all, I have a side seam, so I'm going to draw that on as well. I'll pick this one out. Looks relatively centered. I will adjust it later if I need to. and then the line over the bust point into the side. So one thing first, really important, this 3D avatar pen tool is brilliant to get the visual, and it can work also in real, but you really have to test it, because this might not work. Because in theory what I could be doing is I could go to flatten and take this off and press enter, and then there's my pattern piece. If you cut this out and make this will not look nice on your body at all, because it's completely flat, 2D. There's no shape and no space for a bust. Okay, so brilliant on Clo3D, non-functional in real life. Okay, so just keep that in mind at all times, because it's super important. So therefore, when we're drawing the next line, it is really important to keep pattern making in mind. So if your bust point is here, the biggest, like the bust point where you usually draw your darts to, you want to be very close to this point when you're drawing the line across the bust, because that's the only way how you can close off your darts and make it into one garment. So I'm gonna start off just below here, and I can always adjust my lines afterwards if I feel I need to. As I said, so this is really important. You keep pattern making principles in mind, and also feel free to adjust afterwards your lines to see what you need to make them fit. Okay, and here's your edit pen. So here you could be adjusting the lines. Maybe bring it down a bit lower if you have drawn it too high, or generally adjusting any kind of curve. So even deleting a line and say, okay, well, let me try to do this one again, you know, something like that. Okay, so another point from the pattern making principle perspective, have a look here. We have quite a curve here. So how can we close off this dart completely? Okay, so if you have a look at the original garment, it is very tailored, very stiff. I don't think it actually, if you had a side view, I don't think it actually shapes below her bust here and goes down like many corsets do. I think it goes from here straight through the waist. Obviously everything is very firm as it is a corset and put tight to the body. So this area will be flattened a bit, and then this area will just be tight in there. So I do think from a pattern making perspective, obviously this is possible. We will later have to play with, if I was going to make it manually with my block or even on Clo3D, starting from the block, then I would do it slightly different, but I will go with this exercise with the 3D pen, and let's see how the result will turn out. Okay, so this is possible for this piece to be flat, given that we're not shaping around here. Yeah, the corset will just pull it tight. So that's why I'm allowing this, let's say. And I can also close a lot of the dart value out through this area, through the seam here. So if I had my dart drawn on here, I could close the dart all the way to there, and same here, yeah, and here. Okay, so we have a side seam, we have a front panel, we have a back panel. And then I showed it before. To take the trace of these pattern pieces, once you're happy, also have a look at your waistline, does it all look good? Then you can use the flatten tool. So it's under the 3D pen. So when you go on 3D pen, you can see there's a little triangle, which indicates there's another tool hidden behind. So you go onto the flatten tool and select the pattern pieces holding shift. So I've got 3 pieces now. I select them all, and you can actually see here it tells you, you press enter to flatten. So now we have our pattern pieces. It has converted them into pattern pieces on 2D and 3D. So if now we zoom into our 2D area, I would adjust them a bit based on pattern making knowledge, let's say. Just having an eye for it. After you have done some patterns over the time, you would know that certain shapes may need to change a little bit, especially, for example, the grain line here. So this pattern piece, I know it might be like this on your, when it comes off from your avatar, but that's not how I would do it. So you can either manually rotate, as I just showed you, or you can press right click on the pattern piece when you're in transform pattern, rotate and select y-axis, and now I can select the line that aligns to the y-axis. So that would obviously be my center back in this case. So because my center back is a straight line, I will use that later. We will be making the piece shorter for our corset closure, but for now we will work with this. Okay, so the next thing is just having a look at this. Often when we close off through the front area, you will see that here we actually have a dart, and that could make your center front a bit more shaped and based on the design and everything, but I would actually probably make it straight because of the design. The corset is so straight, and it is there's no seam here on the front, I don't think so. This piece needs to be flipped over, opened up, and you can actually do that already. Unfold, symmetric edit with symmetric editing. There you go. And now if I have a look at my hemline, this goes into a V, which again is not great from a pattern making principles perspective. So I would make sure I get here at least a little bit of a 90-degree angle, which would be 180 for your degrees here. So 90 in this direction and that one. Okay, so just play around with the lines to see that they look good for you. Here I think the angle looks quite good, even at the center back. It's not actually a little bit too much, so often you have to zoom in because it keeps snapping to your other lines otherwise. Okay. Just also comparing the lines, you can see here that even though they were perfect on the body, let's say, when they're traced off, they are not. So this one is 0.75, this one here is 0.8, and here I have sort of discrepancy of 0.5, and here I have almost 3 millimeters. So I have to adjust these, and I always have a look as in what do I want to do. Do I want to adjust both, only one, or in which direction? So I don't think I want to make this any longer because it's already going down a lot. So instead I would probably either make this one higher or this side shorter. I will actually go for the going shorter on this side, change length, and I make it 16.77, I think the other one was. When you use this tool, always check where does your arrow go. The arrow goes up. I do not want to change it in direction up. I want to change it in direction down, right? So you have to check this. And then have a look here. Yeah, so those two are matching. And here we have discrepancy. That is 1.8, so I will adjust this one here. And I have a look at my pattern piece. This is how it gets stitched together. Here's my bastard, basically here and here. So I think this is quite large, and I did draw the top line there, so I think I will adjust it in this direction. Change length and make it 0.8. Start is okay, and okay. So there we go. Then your notches, so this one needs to stitch to here. So we'll put a notch in there so it's very clear that this is where this piece will end. Okay, and now I can also create a symmetric pattern with sewing for the other side, and the same for the back. Always select with sewing so that any adjustments you make will happen to both pieces. So symmetric pattern will also happen if it's not with sewing, but you want to have the symmetric editing. And then the other thing is this pattern piece could easily be flipped around. So I mean they are a little bit different, but still they're also somehow the same. So it's worth for sewing purposes to put or notches, for example. You could put a point here first. I will probably do that later on. For now, I want to perfect the pattern first. Okay, so let's have a look at the hemline. 16.3, and here it's 14.3. So I have a 2 centimeter difference. So to have them equal, there would be, I would have to increase a centimeter at the back and decrease at the front. Is it always what we want? The front is often bigger because of the bust. However, in the waist area, it could almost be the same. Often we work with the block where the front is slightly bigger, just to set the seam and the size slightly back. So let's have a look. We start, I would say, actually let me simulate first. So for the sewing, when we use the flatten tool, it actually stitches it automatically for us. It knew that these two pieces were next to each other, so they're already stitched, right? You can see that. Also here the sewing is there because we selected symmetric sewing with editing. It's also there. What is not yet there is this little line here, the center front. It does not know to sew that. And then also here, let me have a look. So this is correct, and I think so is this one. Yes, that's great, but our center back is also not sewn yet. So for it to stay on the body, we have to sew that as well. Okay, so now if I press simulation, it stitches everything up, great, but it falls down from the bust. Okay, so that's Clo3D. We do have, even if we make it to the correct size, we do have gravity and the fabric folds more. So the avatar is not kind of respected as much as it would be in real life, right? So if you were now to check your measurements, or if you were now to say, okay, well, for this to hold up, I have to reduce here. But then if you check your measurements, you are reducing another 2 to 3 centimeters to make it work. And then if you're printing it out to make it in real, it will no longer fit. If you're doing it for 3D purpose only and you do not care about pattern making, yes, you could do that. But that is not something I would be teaching. So now back to the avatar here. How can we make it work in 3D? Okay, so we have this line here, but this line is an internal pen tool, so it will not work the same as the one that we can use to attach to avatars. We have to draw a new line. I will start with basic tape measure avatar, but I will redraw it on top of the same line that we have already, which helps me then make sure that I do have, that my corset and the attached line will be the same, or quite very similar at least. Okay. Now what can we do? We can go in here to our edit measure, and in this line we can right click on it and say duplicate to symmetric position. The only thing you see here at the center back, it's not going all the way, so I will try to move this point only. Just make sure I select the correct one. Even though we duplicated a symmetric position, that doesn't mean they're not linked, right? If you want to adjust one, you may delete the one again and duplicate it afterwards, but you cannot just assume that one line alters if you do alter the other one. So it's not symmetric editing, it's just duplicating it to the other side. Okay, so under your edit measure, you also have your attached to measure avatar. So this is the one where we are kind of sticking the garment to the avatar. We often have to do this in Clo3D as it works differently to the real human body and fitting samples. You obviously want to make sure your measurements and everything is correct, and it does really work. But so basically how you use this tool is by selecting first the line on the garment, and you will see the garment will kind of disappear because you select the line of the garment. It's now time to select the line on the avatar. On both sides. Those two are attached now, and now I'm going to select this one and this line. So now if I simulate, my garment jumps through this line. Okay, so let me just do the same to the other side, because it's not automatically done. I'm in simulation now, so it happens while I do it actually. And this line as well. Okay, so that looks a lot better. Okay, so the part of the fabric that I don't want to shape around as much, this is something I will set up later in my fabric properties. Now I have my garment on the avatar, and I want to review a little bit how it looks. So just having a look here, and I could see that my pattern already was like, oh, let's have a look later. Once you have it on completely, you can see it does go up here, so I don't like that. So I will go to my 2D window, select the point at the center front, hold shift of course to go straight, and then this time I probably don't need to type a measurement because I could be just visually adjusting it to what I want. Looks almost straight. I will probably move it a tiny bit more. Yeah, that's even better. And at the back I have the opposite problem. It's sticking down a little bit, and you can see that even here. So I will adjust it also. Okay, so you can see here that it's long at the front and short at the back. So the question is, what length do I want, the length of the front or the back? So if you have a look here, it is actually, the model is also of course super tall, but you can see here that I would say her waist is here and it goes a bit lower. So looking again at my avatar, I probably want to lengthen it rather than shorten it. So what I would be doing is lengthening the sides and the back. And I like to select both points at the same time, so I know that I'm adjusting them the same amount. And I will add probably not too much, let's say 8.4, and then the back, of course, accordingly. I shortened it just before, but that was to make it more even. That is better. Also, once you're finished and those lines on the avatar might be a bit irritating, they can be deleted. I was just checking if my the line that I did draw before on the body starts directly on the center front, and it does. It sits a bit asymmetric here, but I think it will correct itself later on once we have the rest of the garment made and change the pose anyway, so we can always adjust it and just put it into place a little bit as well. Okay. And here you might see that it's a bit pointy. This will also adjust later on when we go into the simulation properties. Okay, so now the last check of the hem. I do like now the back and center front length, but I don't like how it dips here. So I feel like this curve isn't quite right. So you can either use C curve, curving the full line, or using V for adjusting individual points. It's up to you how you want to handle this. So when you're dragging a point and it keeps snapping, so when you zoom in it gets better, but let's say it still annoys you, you can always go into your settings preferences, sorry, they have adjusted this. Okay, so you can always go into your preference, so settings, then preferences, and you see here snap to pattern and snap to guide. Guide is the guidelines below it. So you can turn that off and it stops snapping to anything. It will make it a lot easier to move for you. Okay, sorry, just for your reference. Generally speaking though, it is good to keep it on snap to pattern, because you want, usually when you move a point, you want it to snap to another location on the pattern. Okay, so that's the first part of the corset done. Now, to create the skirt part, we need to measure the waist. So the waist measures 30.59, 30.6, let's say. So to create our full circle, we start off with the ellipse, so your pattern piece, ellipse. You click once on the background and you get this box here where you can choose some specific measurements, and I will start with the circumference because that's the waist circumference that I want to use. So there are different ways of doing it. I prefer to work this way. So if I work for the full one, so 30.6 times 2 makes 61.2, and then I say okay. Now I go into edit pattern. The lines are still selected. Right click on it. Offset as offset pattern outline, and now I will offset by the length. So let's say if something, I don't know, you can guess looking at the garment. I'm just gonna start off with this, and I want to tick this box, create internal line. Okay, so now I have this, and I did keep my internal line because this is now what I can cut out, cut and delete. And this is now my waist circumference that goes onto the body, and then this is the length, right? So this is now a full circle skirt that's standing here. So to show you how that would look, and here we would have to turn it around and put it on the body. Of course, in real life it will not work like this. We cannot get in if there isn't any opening. Just to give you a bit of an idea. So this is our starting point. Is this going to be full enough for our skirt? I don't think so at all. So we'll have to add a lot of fullness in here. Let me bring over the image again. Maybe it could be a bit longer, but basically, so the full circle skirt would sit up here, but we need all this fullness going down, going up, going down, going up. So you cannot really make a pattern piece that is longer than this without any seams. So let's have a look at our pattern piece here. Now we could keep our side seam where it is and adjust our pattern piece accordingly. But actually, let me do one thing. I'm just going to change her position in the library, going to avatar, female, pose, and it's a bit unnatural, but I will put her arms all the way up so I can work better for this style. Oh, obviously, putting on simulation will drop the skirt. So reset 3D 3D arrangement. So what I wanted to look at is the seam position, because now I need to decide if I'm going to move this side seam further to the front or I'm going to keep it there. But actually I think I want to keep it there, because if anything I would move it a little bit to the back, but the back is already smaller, so I will keep it like this. Okay, so I'm going to add in some seams, definitely at the center back, because this is where we will have. Okay, so my front is 16.22, so I'm going to adjust this line by changing the length. Change the length, sorry, I can't see that. 16.22, and yes, I want to go in this direction. I want to push the point over. It actually adjusts the line a little bit, so 14.73, and this one is only 3.7. So I will adjust this line just by using my edit curvature point tool, and probably go somewhere in between. I can also adjust this line, change length, and just make them the same, always to make sure in which direction you're changing, and say okay. So now from this point here, I will draw a line. Yeah, I'm just going to add a line here, and also the one at the center front. And then I'm going to use Shift, select all, right click, cut and sew. This piece I'm going to throw out, and then I will unfold the pattern piece and create a symmetric piece after. So for now I want to add some fullness here. So I select the fullness line tool, and first I select the line that I want to add fullness to, and then the one I want to pivot to. So I always have a look here. I don't want to go in this direction, because then I would push out my center front and need to lengthen my pattern piece. And in some cases you want to go both directions, but in this case you will may want to go towards this side seam. Distance moved, so you could go up here, but you can also type in measurement. Just try, what do you feel seems right for the amount we need to add. And then also on this side the same. First the hemline, and the waistline. And in this case I need to move it around so it goes in this direction, and entering an amount as well for how much we will add in fullness. Okay, so I'm just going to convert this point here, because it will just be annoying. Okay, and now what I can do is I can unfold this pattern piece. Oh no, sorry, I wanted, of course, unfold with symmetric editing and sewing, so I don't have to do everything twice. And also right click symmetric pattern with sewing. So now this is the center back, this is the side seam that joins to here, and this is the side seam that joins to here. So let's have a look here. What do we have? It's obviously a lot bigger now than it was before, because we have all this extra fullness, so this could create a bit of trouble when start sewing, because of the new fullness. It overlaps obviously, so it will take a little moment to settle it, but you can see, because I did cut and sew before, our sewing line is already there. The front is not from the center back, we need to stitch because we have not yet done that. Okay, and we have also not stitched to our waist yet, so that's the next thing we do. Here you can start from either side, but you have to make sure you're starting from the correct point, from the matching point. So this is center back, so this is the center back as well. So those, we have symmetric editing, and here I start from the side seam and go to the center front, and I'll adjust this on here. Always have a look on your 3D if the sewing is correct, nothing is crossed, or you have maybe chosen the wrong piece. Okay, so then I will simulate. Just give it a moment and help it to sit flat. You can always hide your baselines as well, so you don't see them here. They're not as nice. You can also delete them if you feel you don't need them anymore. I somehow like to keep track always of the block, or the baseline could often be your waist or your hip lines or something like that. So okay, so that's the starting point for our little dress, and the first steps for the pattern. Then of course we need to look into how to get this to stand, and the lower panel as well, which we will be doing in the next video.